Hey guys, thank you so much for being here. So, you have taken an ACT practice test either on your own or one of our monthly free practice tests that we do every first Saturday of each month. But nevertheless, you've taken an ACT practice test and now it is time to score it. And you may be thinking, now what? How do I do this? What is the process of exactly scoring my complete ACT, finding out my raw scores? How do I convert my raw scores into a scale score for each subject? How do I calculate my composite score? And then when I have all of those scores, how do I then know what areas I'm strong in and what areas I need to improve in order to raise my ACT score? So if you have had a problem with any of that, or if you're experiencing it now, wanting answers to those questions, then stick around because in this video training, we are going to go over exactly how to do those things, how to score your test, calculate your raw scores and your scale scores, convert it into a composite score, and also the main thing, determining your strengths and weaknesses based on those results, or determining where you need to go from here, areas to focus on to improve your ACT score. So we're going to jump right in. So if you participated in one of our monthly ACT practice tests that's proctored by 2 certified ACT educators, or if you took a test on your own, or even if you took an official ACT test and you have your TIR report, your test information release, then you may have seen something similar to this where you get access to the practice test, the answer sheet, and you're able to submit your answers. So students who take their practice test with us, a lot of this work we did for you already. So we went through and we scored your practice test and we determined your raw scores and your scale score and your composite for you, which is exactly what would happen if you took an official ACT test as well. But the next step in the process would be to determine your areas of focus and also where you already have some strengths to capitalize on. So that's what we're going to come back to towards the end of the video. Right now, if you did not take a test with us, or you wanted to just know the process of how to do it on your own, I'm going to show you how to score it yourself and get those raw scores and scale scores. So step number 1 is to calculate your raw score for each subject. Each of the 4 subject tests, you need to know your raw score, which is how many questions you answered correctly for that section. So you'll go to the end of your practice test and you will see your answer key for each of those 4 tests. You see the correct answers. It also gives you a reporting category, which we will talk about that a little later. But really, for the most part, you just need to mark your test up and see which ones, how many questions you answered correctly. You'll need to know how many questions you answered correctly for the English test. Now, it is a good idea, so you don't have to come back and do double work. It is a good idea to follow the instructions they have here, because it allows you to do the reporting category at the same time. But you could definitely just go through and see how many questions did you answer correctly out of the 75 English questions, how many correct out of the 60 math questions, how many correct out of the 40 reading questions, and then the 40 science questions. And then that number, the number of correct answers, is your raw score. Okay, so step 1 is to check your answers for each test and determine your raw score, which is how many questions you answered correctly. So that's what you're going to do first for step 1. Okay, now I would say step 1 star, right? A special step is to use this table where you can go through and see how many questions you answered correctly for each category. That way we can come back later when we're dealing with your strengths and areas of focus. You can use that to determine which of those 3 areas for English you need to focus on, and likewise for the other 4 sections, which areas you want to increase your skills in, okay? So that's step number 1. Moving right along to step number 2. Now that you have the correct number or the number of correct answers, which is your raw scores, now that you have that, step 2 is going to be to determine your scale scores for each subject. And this you will use to calculate your overall ACT composite score. So using the chart that you see on the screen, what you're going to do is to take and see how many questions you got right for English, your scale score, and then you will align it across the table to either side. You can look to the left or to the right and see what scale score is in alignment with the raw score that you just calculated, okay? So you're reading across to either column on the table, left or right there, where your scale score corresponds to that raw score that you just calculated. So this is purely for an example. Let's assume that you have a 64 as a raw score in English. Then you can look over to the left and see that that aligns with a 27 scale score for English, okay? So again, you're taking your raw score, seeing where it falls in that column for that test, and then going over to those columns on the left and the right for scale score and matching the corresponding scale score to the raw score for each test, okay? So you would do the same thing for math. If you had a raw score of 54 in math, then for this particular table, your scale score would be a 33, okay? Let's say here for reading, like let's say you have a range. If you scored a 27, your scale score for reading would be 23. And the same thing, if it was a 28, it would be the same thing, okay? Likewise, still on the reading test, you see there's a jump right here. So let's say you got 33 for your raw score in reading, that would put you at a 28. However, if you made a 34, that actually puts you at a 30 for your scale score. So there's no 29 on that particular reading test for this ACT. Okay, and then you do the exact same thing for science. Find your raw score in the table and look to the right to align it with the corresponding scale score. Okay, and that's your step 2, determining what your scale score is for all 4 tests. Okay, once you have your scale score, once you have it for English, math, reading, and science, and those scores should be between 1 and 36 for each one of them. Step 3, what you're going to do is calculate your composite score. And when you calculate your composite score, you are simply averaging those 4 scale scores that you just determined, okay? So remember, all 4 scale scores should be between 1 and 36. What you're going to do is take those 4 numbers, add them together, then divide by 4. If your resulting number is a fraction or a decimal, then you round them, okay? So you would round down if you have something less than a half or 0.5, and you would round up if you have a half or more. So let's say your composite or your average of the scale scores turned out to be a 22.5, that 0.5 would round up to a 23. Or if you ended up with a average, your composite score of, let's say, 26.3, then that would round down to a 26. Okay, and your composite score should be a whole number between 1 and 36. 36 the highest, and 1 being the lowest possible composite score. Okay, so that's the process there to go from grading your test, getting the number of questions you answered correctly, your raw score, then turning it into a scale score, and then using your scale scores to calculate your composite score. So 3-step process on that, guys. All right, and so just to point out to you all, if you participated in any practice tests with us this past month or any future months with us, we did all of that for you, all of it. So I'm going to show you exactly what it looks like. If you participated with us, you would receive a score report that tells you how many you get right for each section already, right? And it tells you the correct answer. It tells you what you marked, and it gives you the feedback in terms of which area of that particular subject it was testing on. So it breaks down the English into the 3 sections that are assessed in the English test. And then if you just keep scrolling, then you'll get to the math section, which it will also give you. And there's a lot of questions on English, right? I've got to get through 75 questions, but you will see in a moment, it does this for all sections, right? See there's math. You'll be able to see how many points in the math section. So that's your raw score right there for you. You didn't have to grade anything, right? And it will do the same thing for reading and science. So that saves you guys a lot of time coming up with your raw scores, scale scores, and composite. We do all of that for you. And then you are emailed your report outlining your 4 scale scores and your composite. And you'll see it's not showing here, but you would, if you participate in the practice test with us, then you would receive an email like this, except for you would have your scores in this section, okay, outlining where you are. So that's great. Now let's get to the good part. You know what your scores are. You know your scale scores for each subject, right? So you're able to know which subjects you need to focus on. But outside of just knowing you need to study English and math and reading and science, what specifically in those tests do you need to focus on? So that's what we're going to talk about now. How do you know which area you need to put your attention on in order to improve your ACT results? So let's take a look at that. So remember how I said we would come back here and take a look at reporting categories? Now is that time. Now you need to know how many production of writing questions you answer correctly, how many knowledge of language, how many conventions of standard English. Those are the 3 areas for the English test. And how you would do that is to fill out this chart based on the answer key. So you'll find out how many out of the 23 POW questions you answer correctly. Same thing for KLA, same thing for CSE. And then you would be able to determine which one of these 3 areas is your strength and which one you need to focus on. You also see how many questions out of the test are in each category. So you can see 40 out of the 75 questions were conventions of standard English. So that is a good area to focus on no matter what your answers revealed, but you do want to look at your specific results and see where should you put your attention to increase your ACT scores. And you will do the same thing with the math test. It is broken out into multiple areas. Here we have numbers and quantity, algebra, functions, geometry, and statistics and probability. Then we have IES, which is integrating essential skills, and then modeling. But modeling always is tied to another subject-specific areas. So if it says modeling, then it also says algebra or modeling and statistics. So you don't necessarily have to worry about the modeling over here. You just need to determine, do you need to focus your attention on numbers and quantity, on algebra, functions, geometry, statistics, and probability, or integrating essential skills, and you will do that the same way here. So you will know when you get done with this, which ones did you get the least questions right. It's going to be your area of focus. Okay. And likewise, you would continue to do the same thing here, reading and science, likely on the same page at the end of your practice test document. And also in your TIR report, if you have taken an official ACT test and purchased the TIR. So you should have this included as well to help you identify your areas of growth and your areas of strength that you're already excelling in. So I hope, guys, I know this is a quick little rundown, but I hope this video and this training has helped answer some of those questions you may have had. Like, you take a practice test, but so what? What is the benefit of it? How can you use a practice test to determine your skill scores for the 4 subjects, to determine your and a kind of like a estimate of where your composite score will be on an official test, and then determining your current strengths and your current areas of growth where you could improve a little bit. Now, if you looked at this and you felt like, wow, this process is a lot, it's kind of overwhelming, I'm not sure if I could go through that process myself or if I even want to, and if you're looking for even more detailed specifics into these categories that you might want to focus on, then guys, you can book an actual analysis with us. We, as ACT certified educators, offer both an English reading score analysis and a math and science score analysis, where we will go over your practice test or your TIR with you and be able to help you plan out a specific game plan and strategy session on how to increase your scores based on this information that we collect in your practice test. So whether you're looking to get into the college of your choice or looking to benefit from scholarship merits, merits, opportunities, and avoiding student loans, then what you want to do is use these links. I will include them below in order to book in a time for a score analysis for English and reading or math and science. We will go through everything on that practice test, determine your areas of growth and where you are currently excelling. And like I said, develop that strategy, that game plan specific to you, specific to how you have performed already, to help you accelerate your ACT results. So take advantage of that, guys. Remember, we offer this free practice test, a free practice test, not the same one, but we offer different practice tests once a month. Every month is the first Saturday of the month. So take advantage of that. The more times you take an official ACT practice test, the more comfortable you are, your confidence will increase, and you are prepared to go in and do well on your ACT exam. All right. Thank you for watching. I will see you guys next time.